Hello, friend, and welcome to the U-Turn podcast. This is the absolute place for you if you are ready to create a business, a career, a personal brand, or just a life that you are so proud of. And every single week, I'll be bringing you PhDs, subject matter experts, psychology practitioners, business leaders, all onto the show to elevate your success in your work and also your life so that you can leave a legacy, you can amplify your authority, and you can really skyrocket the amount of opportunities that you are creating for yourself in your career, whether you're in corporate or you're a business owner. My name is Ashley Stahl. I'm an international best-selling author of the book U-Turn. Get unstuck, discover your direction, and design your dream career. And most importantly, I'm the CEO of Wise Whisper Agency. I'm a top 100 TEDx speaker on the internet, and it inspired me to start Wise Whisper because my company now has a completely done-for-you process to get your signature talk written and booked on stage. In fact, we've written more than 100 TEDx talks, and we've placed more than 100 clients on stage as speakers for TEDx events. And now I'm on a mission to help every change maker that I know impact millions and share their story. So right now, I'm excited to bring you right into this week's episode. What's going on, U-Turn friends? I'm really excited to bring Janice Litvin onto the show. She helps leaders and teams get rid of burnout, banish burnout in their organization so they can really enhance engagement, retention, productivity, all the good things. She has keynotes, she has workshops, coaching programs, and they just really help teams change the way they react to stress from the inside out. She has a book called Banish Burnout Toolkit, and there's a workbook that really just takes the reader through a journey. She's also the past president of National Speakers Association of Northern California, and just so much more. And today we really want to talk about, obviously, the fact that we're in a bit of a burnout crisis and what can we do, especially if you're in corporate, to overcome that. Because I know if you're not burnt out, chances are you know somebody who is, and it shows up in many different ways. So Janice, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashley. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, I would love to hear a little bit about what inspired you to write about burnout. I imagine that part of it is that you've been through your own burnout, but yeah, I'm all ears.
Well, it's interesting. When I first started my speaking business several years ago, I was more focused on general workplace wellness because a lot of large companies were just starting to hear about what's this thing called workplace wellness? Do we need it? Why do we need it? So that's what a lot of my talks were about. And then a client called several years ago and said, we want you to do a talk about stress management, but we don't want mindful meditation. We can do that all by ourselves. You know, that's so basic. We want you to go deeper. And the interesting thing is, I had already been researching different methodologies for managing stress and burnout. And I had 3 weeks notice. So I threw together this presentation, no slides. It was for an employee development day. There were like 50 people. We used flip charts with markers, and it went very well. And I started doing some research, and I realized, this was before the pandemic, I realized burnout was climbing. And now, as you said, we're in a burnout crisis.
Okay. When we talk about a burnout crisis, I think of many things. I think of people who are working too much. I think of people who are tired. I think of people who are bitter, whose bodies are shut off, they have depression. Like, what are some of the symptoms in the early stage of burnout that people can start to notice? Because I feel like some of them are quite vague, and it's like, how do we really know what's going on? And I think it's easy to minimize. It's like, everybody's working hard. Everybody has a lot going on. Like, don't be a princess. Do you know what I mean? So how do we help people really take a look?
Well, that's such a good question. And it's a very important question because we want to prevent burnout. We don't want to be repairing, because once someone is truly burned out, they have to take a leave of absence.
Yeah.
So brilliant question. What are the symptoms? There are several. First of all, kind of withdrawing. Like, maybe you show up at your meetings, but your camera's never on. Or you start to get kind of moody and angry, and you start acting out at work. And when I say acting out, overreacting to things and being very negative with coworkers and having mood swings and angry outbursts. Or you bring all that stress home and then you're yelling at your poor family. They had nothing to do with what's going on at work. And so people don't understand how to rationally communicate because it's just happening in their body and their heart and mind and soul and their brain. And they don't know what to do with it. They might be having trouble sleeping. They start to withdraw. They start to call in sick a lot, or they show up, but they're kind of barely there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's say that somebody's listening right now and they're like, oh, well, I have plenty of those symptoms. I feel like burnout sometimes can be so freaking big that it's like a week vacation is like piss in the wind. That is a drop in a bucket of what somebody might need. Can you talk to us a little bit about the science of what's happening with your body with burnout? Because I know that I've read multiple times that your brain changes. Can you explain what that really means or how that looks?
There's a lot to that. First of all, physiologically, we do feel stress and burnout in our body. And by the way, our body is not meant to be on high stress alert, the fight, flight, or freeze syndrome all day, every day. That's when the amygdala, the fight, flight, or freeze part of the brain in the limbic system, is always on alert. What we want to do is we want to move that reaction to the prefrontal cortex and learn how to communicate better. But getting back to your question, our whole body, whether we have knots in our stomach or we're tense at work and we're just like, ugh. Yeah. That's very scientific. We're very at work. Those are some of the clues. And knowing your team very well, and managers knowing your team well enough to see the signs. Yeah. Like, for example, if someone is normally very upbeat, very kind of happy and happy-go-lucky, and for an extended period of time, they're more withdrawn, they're not meeting deadlines, they're not communicating, it's a really good idea to take that person aside, especially for the manager, but if you have a friend, and say, how are you doing? What's going on? First of all, let's go take a walk. Yeah. Instead of drinking more coffee. Let's take a walk and let's have a chat. And they might go, oh, but I've got these deadlines. Well, the deadlines are not going to get met with you in a healthy state of mind if you don't take that walk. So taking more breaks during the day is really, really important. And like you said, a week vacation is not enough, but it's better than not taking vacation. And a lot of people will say, I don't have time for vacation. You better make time for vacation because you're going to end up taking I don't mean to be threatening, but you're going to need an extended vacation if you don't take the 1 week now. And managers need to encourage people to take vacation. And they also need to not send texts and emails nights and weekends. Yeah. Those are precious downtimes. Just like we need a good night's sleep, we need mental breaks, evenings and weekends.
Yeah. It's one problem that I have with that is that as an entrepreneur, I'm like constantly working when I need to work, and I just want to offload work. And so I don't want to text people or email people or make them do anything, but I'm trying to offload work. So one way that I've mitigated that, I don't know what you think of this, is I've said, hey, if you ever hear from me off work hours, you don't have to reply or acknowledge it or read it until you're on work hours.
Well, that's a step.
Yeah. That's a step. I can't promise to not email on the weekend because I work a lot on the weekend.
Well, what you can do, depending on what mail server you use, you can time your emails to not go out until Monday morning. Yeah. So that's a suggestion. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying even the fact that a text comes in, or maybe people should have a separate phone for work versus home and turn that work phone off. Right. Right. Helpful. Okay. Another question that I'm curious about is kind of going back to the brain. Like, what if somebody's brain is like seriously changed, their chemistry of their brain? What is the research, or what is the feedback around how soon or what would be needed to get back to baseline, to get back to a place where I was burnt out for 4 years. I didn't have energy to really work. And then I got this fire in me and it came back 4 years later. But it was a brutal 4 years. And I was like, how am I participating in society? Like, I need to make money. I need to make a living. Like, I'm sure a lot of people feel this.
how do we, like, how do we manage our expectations?
Well, first of all, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, you said the last thing, which is very impactful and important, which is managing expectations. We're human beings. We're not robots.
Yeah.
Even though with artificial intelligence and electric cars and all these automated systems, sometimes we feel that way, but we're human beings with human feelings. So it's really important to acknowledge that for everybody. And then the other thing is I had a similar experience. So I was a recruiter for 20 years. I would say the last 3, I was burned out and trying to figure out something to do, but I was on that hamster wheel and I was doing well. I was making good money. I was just tired of it and burned out, and recruiting, this was about 20 years ago, and recruiting became just more difficult at that time because of the economy at that time. But I couldn't figure out what to do because I didn't have time to stop and think. And then we had the meltdown of 2008, and I had a forced break. But for me, it was a blessing in disguise.
Right.
And so what I did was I went to the gym every single day. I had nothing to do. Thank God my husband had a job. And so I was lucky in that way. But I went to the gym for hours a day. I made friends there. That was my life. From and my son was in high school, I would drop him off, go to the gym, spend, I don't know, maybe 3 or more hours there, stop at the grocery store, whatever errands I needed to do. Since I wasn't working, I felt like I should do the cleaning and the cooking and the grocery shopping. And I was trying to eat more healthy for me and my family. And then I found Zumba fitness and I became a Zumba instructor. And even though that's a new activity, it was still a break because mentally it's not a big push to become a Zumba instructor. So for me, it was a break, basically. It was a break.
I love that. Okay. I want to ask you a lot about like leadership because I find that my team has been growing really quickly. We probably have about 10 people coming in a month to write and book TEDx talks with us. And we are a pretty big team, and I'm really proud of my team, and I really want to keep them. I really look up to them. My marketing director, I look up to her. My ops person, I'm like, wow, you're so captivating how you do things. Like, she's so good at things I'm bad at. And my writers are some of the best writers I've ever met. It's like our creative director comes from Apple. She was assisting Steve Jobs making decks and writing speeches for his team. I just look at these people. I'm like, I never want you to go. And I don't want to be the bad leader that ever makes you feel like you have to. So I don't know, like, what are some of the most toxic things that leaders you think are doing, and how can we start to course correct? Because in every behavior is usually some sort of need or some sort of want beneath it, right? Like, people aren't just horrible because they want to be. Usually they need something from you. They want something. There's a request beneath the toxicity. I don't know. How can I really treasure my team, but also get the most out of them, you know? Yeah. Any tips around that?
A lot of tips. First of all, toxicity can come from behavior patterns. It's not just a want, but it can also come from growing up with in a toxic home, meaning somebody that verbally abused you. So that's learned behavior, can be learned behavior. That's one thing. But how to get the best from your people is to know your people, to love your people. It sounds like you do appreciate and respect them.
Yeah, I love them.
How do you show love and appreciation? How do you honor and award them every single time they finish a task? First of all, remind them to pat themselves on the back, but you pat them on the back as well. Wow, that was such an awesome, and without being fake, I really appreciate your hard work. I know this last period of time was a little difficult. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you so much. Here's a $50 gift card to Amazon, or something they don't expect, but something like if they want to go to Macy's, here's a $50 gift card to Macy's, or I've bought you a plane ticket to Aruba, whatever it is. Show appreciation, understand their strengths, and help bring the best out of them. By that, I mean, spend time with them to the degree you can, whether it's a team fun event, like in kind of a slower season, if you may not have them, but if you can, take everybody out for something fun. And it could be something good for the community, like a beach cleanup or something fun and physical where you're not talking about work. And spend time getting to know them. What's their favorite books? What's their favorite hobbies? What's the names of their children or their partner? Where do they like to go on vacation? What's their favorite physical activity? Because the more you know them, the stronger the bonds will be, the trust will be stronger, and the commitment will be stronger.
Beautiful. That's so fun to hear. I feel like it's so interesting because everybody's motivated by something different, right? And like
Right.
what's toxic for one person is wonderful for the other. Like my marketing girl, her and I both have a personality template where we want things done yesterday. We
Yeah.
both have ants in our pants. Like we are always like, let's get that. I will be texting her and she will be texting me about the same thing, and the message will go through faster from her. So it's like, I'm not going to burn her out by having a quick pace. That gives her a sense of aliveness.
Yeah.
But then you've got like other people on my team where it's like they need time and space. I've actually learned, honestly, Janice, that people who move slower are just not a fit for our team. Like that because we're a startup, we're moving quickly. So I've really tried to hire people that like a fast pace, that they find it fun.
Right.
But I don't know, just anything around like how does somebody even start to look for people that are a fit so that the bond is there and they're not just hiring people they're going to burn out? Because I genuinely think burnout is what happens when you got the wrong match. It's not the
It
right
can.
situation.
Hiring is very hard. There's a few things. First of all, ask them.
Yeah.
Explain honestly. Well, there's a few things. As a recruiter, I have a few comments about this. Explain honestly how the workflow is. Have them meet other people from the team during the interview process. Have asked the other people on the team to describe what is a typical day? What will be the flow? If you really think this is a fit for you, you need to understand what it's like to work here, because we really don't want to burn you out, and we want, for your sake and ours, we want a good match. That's one thing. Number two, aligning your higher purpose. And you do have quite an important and valuable mission. Everyone needs to be aligned to the mission. You're not just putting out speeches, you're helping people help others.
Right.
So obviously my mission is to help people not burn out. The speakers that you're helping usually have some kind of mission. So your people are helping through two steps. People connect to a mission and a purpose. For example, I have a client that's a large construction company, and the people who work there might be in finance or accounting or design, whatever. They're not just talking about concrete and steel. They're talking about helping people in a hospital. They're building hospitals as one example. So you're helping save lives. So connect to the ultimate mission and purpose. And then find what drives people personally and tie their personal mission, when possible, to the mission of the work. And communicate all of that in your outgoing written communication when you post job. I assume you post jobs somewhere, or you have them written somewhere. You hand someone a written job description. Have all that communicated in writing.
Yeah, just like helping people understand what the boundaries are. It feels like you're in a cave without a flashlight if you don't have a job description. It's like, what am I even doing? It feels so aimless. And
there's one other thing. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Oh,
I just
please.
was talking to someone this week. There are 2 personality assessments that you and your team might want to go through.
Oh, I love those. Give them to me.
And I will send you the links later. I'm not affiliated with either one, but they both have their purposes. One is DISC, strengths, which connects to what you were saying. I just want the information. I don't want to ease into it. That I'm that personality type too, but that's a different personality type. It's good for you to know, and you can have, and I can hook you up with someone that can get you started on this. And you can have all your candidates take the assessment. You pay, I don't know, 25 or $50. Then you can see how they would fit in.
Yeah.
So that's a nice part of your process. And the other one is called Clifton Strengths, which is a little bit more the personality.
Okay, great. I honestly, do you know what's so cool about these personality tests that I don't think about enough as a business owner is that you can really take your top performers, get their test results, and mirror who you're hiring under them.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so powerful.
Well, you don't always want people to be exactly the same. There's a meld and a matching But
Yeah,
yes,
I gotta tell you, these people, if I could clone them, like I'm not even matching. I'm just like, can we clone you? Can we duplicate? Like
yes. Well, yes,
people.
you can get closer.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. I always struggle with personality tests because I'm like, are we obscuring a human being into a box?
No,
Like,
we're not. We're not. We're all made differently. We're all made differently. And you just want to know, people know how to perform on an interview process, but you want to know who's underneath the interview
yeah.
and
Yeah.
how they're going to perform in your environment. Again, communicating clearly with them what the environment is like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And having everyone on the team, as many people as possible, meet them and then get a consensus.
That's a really good one because you know what? I hired a couple people and I was like, man, something's kind of weird about this one. And then I would ask the people on my team I love, hey, are you picking up? Yeah, I picked up on that right away. Wait a minute. Why did I have you view them and help me figure this out?
Yes, have
Um,
everyone interview people.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
Take
so,
them to lunch, and I'll tell you why, even though it seems like, oh, that takes so much time. When you watch how people are in a public restaurant, I mean, when they're being interviewed, they're going to be on their best behavior, but still, just you get more of a feel for them.
right.
Or take them out for coffee. It doesn't have to be a whole lunch.
Yeah, yeah, that's really, really helpful. I had a writer recently ghost me on a project. She had a medical issue, but it wasn't, in my opinion, like if I really look at the situation, which who am I to say anything, but
Yeah.
it felt like you could have texted us back. She just, I think she had a thing happening, but also used it to disappear because she was overwhelmed by her life or something.
Rather than saying, I'm overwhelmed.
I'm overwhelmed, or, and even if you say that, like my team doesn't really speak the language of overwhelm. We speak the language of prioritizing. So if somebody's overwhelmed, I'm like, okay, it sounds like we need to prioritize, and that's it. We should
Yes.
be in overwhelm. So can you talk a little bit about overwhelm and stress management? Because I feel like I've got a pretty good hold on that. Like if I tell people, hey, if you feel an inkling of overwhelm, you need to come to me and ask for prioritization. You should not be overwhelmed. We have a lot going on. We need it all written down, but we can prioritize it.
You know, you really hit the nail on the head. And I've been talking about this a lot. In fact, one thing I'm offering with my clients is not just to do a speech, which when I say not just to, that's powerful and it's big and it's important, but it's one piece of the whole puzzle. If you really want people to change, they have to do something, not just sit and listen. And
Right.
there are a number of things they can do. You mentioned my workbook, Banish Burnout Toolkit. That's one, but having guided work parties as well as roundtable discussions. So this came up. I did a roundtable last week, and the question came up. I get overwhelmed. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
There's a number of ways to say it, and one is I simply do not have the bandwidth. Here's a list of all my priorities right now. Let's together prioritize so we can get everything done in a controlled and timely fashion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, is there something I haven't asked you about burnout, about recovery, about leadership that is central to your toolbook and your toolkit that would be good for people to know before we go?
Yes, thank you for asking. The very first step, which I call stop and audit, and I do these hand motions because with learning modalities, using the body is another way to reconfirm what you learned. So I want people to be aware of what's going on. So for example, let's say you're in a meeting and somebody's rude. Now I know in your organization that would never happen, but in some organizations it does, where someone says, oh no, we can't, you make a suggestion to solve a problem. Oh no, we can't, that won't work. We don't do things that way. That's completely discounting the person. That's a big like slap in the face. Like you don't know what you're talking about. It devalues the person. It shuts them down. They don't want to talk to you ever again or be a member of that team.
Yeah.
And so the person who got devalued might say, oh, well, that we're having a bad day and let it go for the moment because they don't want to have a big fight at work. And then later they've got knots in their stomach and they're like, why do I have knots in my stomach? Oh yeah, someone was rude. If you let go of all those slights and all the annoyances that happen throughout the week, you're going to explode.
Right.
At the end of the week, you're going to yell at one of your children or your loved ones when they didn't deserve that. So be aware. Number two, learn to reframe when something happens. Learn to reframe your thoughts like, Oh, this line in the grocery store is taking so long. Why is that checker moving so slowly? Like, doesn't she see all these people here? Well, maybe she had to work a double shift because someone didn't show up for work, and maybe she or he is exhausted.
Mm.
And maybe they would appreciate it if you would be nice to them. And when you're nice to them, you're nice to yourself, because when you smile, we have mirror neurons. When you smile, they smile, you feel better. So how about, and all that negativity is hurtful, is emotionally hurtful to you. But rather than being critical and mean and hateful, how about, hey, how's your day going? It must be so hard with all these demanding customers and you have to stand on your feet all day. That must be really hard. How's your day going?
Mm.
And that they instantly feel better and you feel better. And the whole point is I want everybody to feel better, but I don't want people to walk around the streets with these negative, angry thoughts.
Mm. Really, really helpful. Kindness. I think it's hard. Like one thing I've really handled that I don't know if it's really that relevant, so maybe we'll gloss over this, but is in my hiring processes, I work so hard, Janice. I care a lot about what I'm
I
doing
know.
and I'm so proud of it. And there have been times like I hired a assistant, she had 20 years of experience, $40 an hour, and just to start. And I remember the first week I said, okay, well, I have a training document. Do you want to, there's videos on it. Do you want to just, she's like, let me be with this document for a week and then I could start my hours next week. I said, great. I didn't get the thing I didn't realize, I wasn't looking for this, is that all the videos in the training doc have to be requested access from me. So as the week went by, I was wondering, I'm like, she hasn't requested access for any of these videos. That's so weird. Like maybe she's going to do it over the weekend. That's so weird. Sure enough, it's Monday. She didn't request access to any videos. So she didn't do any of the stuff that the whole week was supposed to be devoted to. And during that training week, I just texted her for, not texted, emailed her for a couple basic things. Can you help me find a dog walker? I got an invoice for 20 hours of her trying to find a dog walker. She like posted in Facebook groups. I got an invoice for 20 other hours of like, I don't even know what she did. But the point is like, there are so many hardworking people out there that are working their ass off to like really make a difference. And it's painful when you compensate people and they're out of integrity and they don't show up. And so I hear what you're saying about being nice. And I think there's no excuse to be rude. Like it's not necessary. You just have boundaries and learn your lessons. But I have a lot of empathy for a lot of business owners that feel slighted in different ways. And I feel like the system that we have is really built to support the employee and to support people who work for people. And it makes me really sad because my entrepreneur friends, I'm like, oh no, we're out there working hard. We're busting our butts. And these things happen all the time, right? So, I just like zelled her, $1,500 or $2,000 for God knows what. Like it really felt like nothing.
Right.
But I didn't want to argue it because she did put in the time, even if it wasn't useful for me. So I don't know, is there anything you have to share for people who are trying to like really protect their time, get the most out of what they're doing, have those boundaries, set boundaries?
Yes.
I don't know, just like get served properly when they're out there doing the work that they're doing.
Well, there are a couple things that happened with that situation, and I've been in that exact same situation with a VA. Because she was new, it might have been helpful for you to check in every day. How's it going? What are you working on? By the way, did you see that you need to send the request to watch these videos? How's that video going? How's that document going? When you ask her to find the dog walker, please only spend 5 hours on this dog walking thing.
Right.
At the beginning, and let her know I'm not a micromanager, but I think we need to get to know each other and understand our working styles. And I need to make sure that you have everything you need to be successful. You want her to be successful. It makes you successful. So communicate.
Yeah. Okay. This is really, really, really helpful. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Where can everybody find you?
JaniceLitvin.com, Janice at Janice Litvin, LinkedIn, Janice Litvin. And I would like to offer a free gift for your listeners. This is my newest book for managers. It talks about some of the things you and I just talked about. Banish Organizational Burnout, 26 Tips for Managers, which can be found at JaniceLitvin.com janice.litvin.com/resources-book. JaniceLitvin.com/resources-book. And they can download a free copy.
Thank you so much for joining us, for sharing. We'll put that in the show notes, and for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashley. You are delightful, and you brought up things most people don't, so I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. She must be helping out with TED Talks or something, thinking all these content thoughts. Thank you.
And if there's anything I can do for you, please let me know.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to the U-Turn podcast. I hope you learned so much in this episode and you're putting it into action today. We would love to hear from you. Slide into my DMs at Ashley Stahl or leave a written review if you're inspired. It would mean so much to us. Be sure to subscribe to the show because, as you know, the more subscribers we get, the better the guests we can bring you. And in the meantime, if you're looking to skyrocket your personal brand and impact millions, head on over to wisewhisperagency.com to learn more about how we are getting clients booked for the TEDx stage.